Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. We have another great show for you. First, the disgraced ex-Prince Andrew gets detained and released for his alleged misconduct. FBI clashes with the local sheriff in the Savannah Guthrie mother's disappearance. Intoxicated pediatric dentist gets arrested mid-surgery. Wait till you hear this. A tearful apology fails to sway a judge in a manslaughter sentencing. Some other stories that we're watching. We've got This Day in Legal History, our quote of the day, and our dumb criminal. Let's talk about it.
All right, lawyer.
Good day, everyone. My name is Scott Reich, and this is Crime Talk. Thanks for joining us. You know the drill. Subscribe if you haven't, like if you do, leave me a comment below, hit that little bell for notifications, and you can check us out on any of your favorite podcasting apps. Now, let me also remind you, go to crimetalksearch.com, sign up for a background subscription service today. When you do, you'll be able to do a background search on anyone that's coming into your life. You're going to get a report prepared while you wait, and it's going to have information about social media presence, email addresses, phone numbers. You're going to find out if somebody's married, divorced, do they have liens, judgments, criminal history, sex offender registry, everything you want to know about people that are coming into your life. Knowledge is golden, ladies and gentlemen. Knowledge is power. You need that information. Don't go out on a date with somebody until you've checked them out. To be dating malpractice, don't do it. All right. Let me also note, if you've noticed moving a little gingerly, is because I was flying back from, North Carolina earlier in the week for this sentencing I had out there in federal court. And I don't know what it was, but I could feel my whole lower body, I think, sitting in the airplane the whole time, getting all cramped up. Anyway, I got up the next day, yesterday, and had some weird back spasm. And, it feels fine until I move or have to stand up or get out of a chair or something along those lines. So my apologies in advance if I don't have my normal pep in my step, so to speak. But we're getting through it because, hey, the show must go on. All right, let's go and open the record for February 19th, 2026. And it is Thursday, ladies and gentlemen. That's right, the bombshell arrest. The disgraced ex-Prince Andrew detained and ultimately released for misconduct in regards to the Epstein files. But no sex involved, ladies and gentlemen. That's right. So today, Andrew Mountbatten, Windsor, formerly known as Prince Andrew, was arrested at his residence at the Sandringham Estate in Norfolk, marking a significant escalation in the investigation tied to his association with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, the former prince was taken into custody by the Thames Police Department there on suspicion of misconduct in public office, stemming from allegations that he shared confidential UK trade documents with Epstein during his tenure as the nation's special representative for international trade and investment from 2001 through 2011. Key evidence includes some unsealed emails from November of 2010 in which Andrew reportedly forwarded sensitive reports on official visits to Vietnam, Singapore, and Afghanistan, potentially violating the Official Secrets Act and sparking discussions about investment opportunities. I think they refer to that as insider information, wouldn't you? Anyway, hey, if it's good enough for our members of Congress, by God, it should be good enough for the royal family. Anyway, these actions could result in a life sentence for the former prince if he's convicted. Now, the arrest was conducted without prior warning to the royal family, prompted immediate reactions from senior members. King Charles III expressed profound concern in a formal statement, affirming that the law must take its course and pledged full cooperation with the investigation, a position endorsed by the Prince and Princess of Wales as well. Now, Queen Camilla declined to comment when approached by the media, and Andrew's ex-wife, Sarah Ferguson, and daughters, Princess Beatrice and Eugenie, have remained silent, with reports indicating Ferguson may be abroad. Broader implications include calls for Andrew to testify before United States Congress on his ties to Jeffrey Epstein, alongside criticism from American politicians highlighting the disparities in handling of the Epstein-related cases. Now, a lot of people have characterized Andrew as exhibiting narcissistic traits and persistent victim mentality. suggesting he views himself as unfairly persecuted despite evidence against him. Additional revelations point to Epstein's financial support for Ms. Ferguson after their divorce and to Andrew's efforts to appoint Epstein's associate, David Stern, to influential positions. Now, as the investigation unfolds, searches continue at properties linked to Andrew, obviously showing how serious these allegations are against a once prominent royal figure. Well, what can you say, ladies and gentlemen? I guess you could say at least, we've had lots of resignations of CEOs and, corporate counsel to Goldman Sachs and things of that nature for their ties to Jeffrey Epstein. But at least, I guess something's coming from this. No charges that he was doing something inappropriate with children, which I think anybody would agree that regardless of your status, if you are doing inappropriate things with children, you should probably go to prison. But this is for basically providing secrets, information about trade, if you can believe that, when the prince was a envoy, so to speak. So at least we're getting somewhere. At least somebody's being held accountable. So I guess if one person in England is being held accountable, potentially the former prince, I guess that makes it equal with the total number of people that have been held accountable here. Ghislaine Maxwell. Something to think about. Next, the FBI and the local sheriff apparently clashing in the Guthrie disappearance. So as we've talked about, and now we're heading into our third week, the disappearance of 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie from her upscale Tucson home back on February 1st has sparked some intense scrutiny over the handling of the case by the Pima County Sheriff's, and specifically the sheriff, Chris Nanos. Federal Bureau of Investigation officials are reportedly eager to assume control, citing perceived ineffectiveness and a lack of progress more than 2 weeks into the probe. Key concerns include the early abandonment of the crime scene, which allowed media to access it, and delays in deploying aerial search resources due to staffing shortages. Now, evidence such as discarded latex gloves and surveillance footage of a masked individual has yielded no suspects to date. And Sheriff Nanos has conducted multiple press briefings amid shifting narratives, facing accusations of prioritizing public image over investigation rigors, with the critics labeling his approach as an ego trip. Now, this tension is exacerbated by a historical feud between Nanos and the FBI, originating from disputes over asset forfeiture funds back in 2015, which influenced his electoral history. That's right, he lost the election, they got reelected. Now, despite these criticisms, Nanos maintains that all available resources are committed to the case and denies any mishandling. Complicating matters, the Pima County Sheriff's Department is featured in the A&E reality series Desert Law, though production concluded last summer and has no involvement in the Guthrie investigation, with no plans for renewal or coverage of the case. Now, the FBI's potential takeover hinges on Guthrie's family's approval as the search for Nancy continues without resolution. Clearly, this sheriff, if you go back and take a look, he did not have nice things to say about the FBI about a decade or so ago. One of his, I think, the number 2 in charge deputy under sheriff there actually pled guilty to some misdemeanors. And let's just face it, there's clearly some headbutting that's taken place. And unfortunately, possibly, it's affected the handling of this particular case, which as of right now, well, frankly, looks like they have no clues at all. Oh, that's right. They don't, do they? Huh. Next, how about taking your kid to the pediatric dentist and your dentist gets arrested? Could you imagine that? So in a disturbing incident highlighting risks in medical practice, 36-year-old dentist Kelly Buck was arrested on February 18th for allegedly performing oral surgery while under the influence at a pediatric dentistry clinic in Sherman, Texas. Now, police responded to reports of intoxication around noon, discovering Buck displaying evident signs of impairment after treating at least one young patient that morning. Employed Temporarily, via a staffing agency, Buck failed field sobriety tests, leading to her detention on a state jail felony charge under Texas law, which could result in up to 2 years of imprisonment. Now, police obtained a blood sample via a warrant to further the investigation, noting the case as unprecedented in that particular area, and noting that Buck has no prior disciplinary records, having been licensed as a dentist since 2016. But she has been released on a $10,000 bond the following day. Now, the event has raised obviously broader concerns about an oversight and, some healthcare roles and potential dangers to vulnerable patients. Well, I think anytime you do anything intoxicated, you're going to have the risk for patients, clients, whatever you want to call it. Now, I think the bigger issue would be is I didn't know there was temp services for dentists. I thought most dentists had their own practice or they were employed, but temporary dentists, who knew? Or maybe the person could potentially be, in this case, like Dr. Buck, maybe have an alcohol problem, can't handle something, but needs to pay the bills, so they do a little temporary work. Wow. Maybe the bigger concern would be, who are you getting your dentists from? I know most people have their dentists that they go, for decades. They only change when the dentist retires. I don't know. That's a weird one. But at least no patients were reportedly harmed in the intoxicated procedures performed. Next, a Florida man's tearful apology fails to sway a judge in a manslaughter sentencing for a fatal car crash. So Richard Ferguson, this guy was 70 years old, all right, received a 37-year prison sentence today following his conviction on 4 counts of manslaughter related to a deadly 2023 car crash caused by his unlicensed teenage son. At the hearing, Ferguson offered an emotional apology, stating his remorse was permanent and genuine, and admitted he should have intervened to stop his son, though he denied providing the car keys or permission to drive. Now, the charges arose from a September 3rd, 2023 incident in which Ferguson's 15-year-old son, driving without authorization, struck a vehicle carrying Trinidad Hernandez and her 3 grandchildren, resulting in their deaths. Prosecutors contended that Ferguson bore responsibility for enabling access to the vehicle. Despite pleas from Ferguson's family for leniency due to his advanced prostate cancer, Judge Wayne Wooten imposed the full term of 444 months, rejecting requests for reduced sentencing. Now, the victim's relatives, Sabrina Hernandez, testified to the profound loss, emphasizing the enduring grief, and Ferguson's son, sentenced as a juvenile, faces release at the young age of 19. Once again, a case where hold the parents responsible. 15, and this dude is 75 years old. Wow, he started late, didn't he? Yes, he did. You'd think he'd maybe have a little wiser judgment, but I'm not really sure how and why you're holding a parent responsible when the kid took the car without his authorization. What are you supposed to do? Drop the keys down your trousers or something so he can never get them? The kid's going to get it. He's going to get it. I don't care if it's a gun, a car, liquor from the liquor cabinet. There's certain things that the buck's got to stop with somebody, and it's usually the person that committed the crime. And when you get into the negligence standards in criminal law, ladies and gentlemen, I have told you it is a slippery slope. We already have that in lots of cases, right? Criminally negligent homicide. You should have reasonably foreseen that the accident was going to take place. You know what? When it snows in your neighborhood and you don't shovel your walks, just charge everybody, even if somebody doesn't slip and fall and hurt themselves. Because, hey, you're trying to prevent these things, right? It makes no sense. Negligence, it's reasonably foreseeable. Not that you knowingly, intentionally did something or complete reckless disregard, which is what criminal law requires. But everybody wants to go after everybody to make somebody feel better, that somebody's being held accountable. So they just keep lowering the standard. Hell, why not even stop at negligence? I mean, it's ridiculous. I get it. It makes everybody feel so good that somebody's being held accountable for something that is tragic. But sometimes tragic things happen to good people. And sometimes it's for a reason, a higher reason we may not know. But you don't always have to send everybody to prison for something when you need to hold the person responsible who actually did the crime, ladies and gentlemen. And I know people say, Scott, you don't understand. We got to help these people, make them feel better. Somebody needs to be held accountable, like the cases, where the children get access to a gun. Let's charge the pellet. Remember, that was a novel legal theory, Crumley's. Now the guy down in Georgia that we're streaming his case as well. It's really great until they come for you or maybe your kids or your grandkids and said, hey, they're really bad parents. They're bad parents. We need to, hold you accountable. Sorry for that. Somebody's got to go to prison. You don't mind, do you? Lose everything, your job, family, reputation for something your kid may have done. We were talking about this in the office the other day, okay? I don't care how many kids you have. Each and every one of them is different. Some could give you no problems at all. Others, maybe a little payback for everything that you did as a kid. But the reality of it is, would you really want to be held responsible when you're just doing the best job that you can? Could you imagine being criminally responsible? Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, there's a lot of dumb parents out there and a lot of people that shouldn't be parents, but it's a fundamental right to have kids. And if we're going to start holding you criminally responsible for being bad parents, look out. It could come to you or somebody you know. Next, a couple other headlines that we're watching. We're going to see how these develop over the next couple of days. A Navy reservist in Norfolk, Virginia, has been charged with murdering his wife and stashing her body in a freezer before flying off to Hong Kong. David Varela is on the run internationally after Lena Guerro's remains were found earlier this month. What drives a man to such a cold act? Well, we'll take a look at that as well. Shifting to Georgia, where an eviction notice turned deadly. A 51-year-old man gunned down his wife and daughter before taking his own life. The standoff in Macon obviously shows what happens when there's a lot of financial pressures in one's life. But, really not worth killing anybody. Next, over in New Mexico, a father stands accused of killing his son and shooting his wife in Tearful. He appeared in court yesterday facing the weight of those charges. Jill Biden's ex-husband, 77-year-old William Stevenson, pled not guilty to murdering his current wife in Delaware. A North Carolina wife, Shanna Cloud, was indicted for killing her Green Beret husband, Clinton Brownell, amid divorce proceedings. This indictment came down yesterday. How does a civilian kill a Green Beret? He must have been asleep. Those guys are high-speed, low-drag, man. Nobody's had to have slept up on him. Seriously, that's just not right. And next, some heartbreaking news from Alabama. A cadaver dog joined the hunt for a 2-year-old Genesis Reed, missing for weeks despite her mother's recent report. Adriana Reed is jailed for lying to police. And a win for justice in Las Vegas. 12 missing kids were rescued from a human trafficking ring. And in New York, the police arrested 24-year-old Noah Roberts Holfer of Rochester following allegations of sexual abuse involving young children at a local daycare. That's right, multiple victims reported incidents occurring outside supervised settings. Huffler now faces felony charges with the investigation revealing a pattern of misconduct. And the daycare's name is being withheld to protect the victims, whose ages range from toddlers to preschoolers. Now, I'm not saying men can't run daycares. They could probably love those kids, be great at it. But what have we said, ladies and gentlemen? Why do these people that seem to get in trouble with kids always seem to be around the kids? It's almost like they can't control their impulses and desires, and so they want to be around the kids, which are their desires and impulses. Think about that, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said, I love my kids. I love the lovely Miss Kristen's children, right? But I don't want to hang out with anybody else's kids, young kids, right? Frankly, that'd be a little weird. Frank, the hardest working man in show business. If I volunteered to want to hang out with your kids for no purported reason, you'd think that's a little weird, wouldn't you, Frank? Frank's shaking his head. So why would you let some strange male hang out with your children at the daycare, ladies and gentlemen? I don't know. Because that's where the children are. Remember that, ladies and gentlemen. Unbelievable. How about a little history today? February 19th, several notable legal events occurred on this date. First, 1923, the United States Supreme Court decision in Moore v. Dempsey. There, the United States Supreme Court ruled in Moore v. Dempsey, a landmark case stemming from the 1919 Elaine Massacre in Arkansas, where African-American sharecroppers were convicted in mob-dominated trials. The court held that such proceedings violated due process under the 14th Amendment, marking an important expansion of the federal oversight in state criminal trials to ensure fairness. Remember what we talked about the other day, ladies and gentlemen? It was not always the case that the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments, applied to the states, only to the federal government. It wasn't through cases like these that they started incorporating the Bill of Rights applicable to the states. And then on this date, in 1942, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, one of the worst presidents in American history. I've said it once and I'll say it again. He signed an executive order 9066 authorizing the forced relocation and internment of Japanese Americans during World War II. Now, this order was later upheld by a widely criticized case called Korematsu versus United States, and it represented a significant infringement of civil liberties and has been regarded as a grave constitutional error in United States history. Now, that order, ladies and gentlemen, was truly an injustice. It was truly racist in all regards. These weren't like, oh, these are Japanese citizens that swam ashore undercover and were captured and they were enemy threats. These were American citizens that were put in an internment camp simply because they were Japanese and we thought they couldn't be trusted. And then on this date in 1976, President Gerald Ford rescinded that particular executive order. Formally rescinding that order acknowledged the injustice of the wartime internment policy. And how about a legal quote regarding that? The quote that we have addresses the Japanese American internment during World War II, comes from the dissenting opinion of Justice Frank Murphy in the United States Supreme Court case of Korematsu versus United States that I spoke about, which actually upheld the constitutionality of the Executive Order 966. And in critiquing the exclusionary order as racially discriminatory, Justice Murphy stated, quote, "Such exclusion goes over the very brink of constitutional powers and falls into the ugly abyss of racism," end quote. Obviously, that quote underscores the dissenting view that obviously turned out to be correct, and basically said that that internment violated the fundamental principles of equal protection and due process under the Fifth Amendment. And then also today, our dumb criminal. Naked ambition foiled, ladies and gentlemen. Naked ambition foiled. Now, in a spectacle that defies both logic and layers of clothing, please meet Benjamin Feltz. He's 37 from Nakusa, Wisconsin, and he has secured his place as today's most ill-advised offender after commandeering an ambulance with a patient on board and then going on a high-speed pursuit that concluded with him being stark naked upon his surrender. So this incident began Tuesday evening when paramedics in Wisconsin Rapids secured a patient in the car, the ambulance. An opportunistic bystander, later identified as Mr. Feltz, seized the driver's position, compelling the medical personnel to abandon ship for their safety as the ambulance accelerated away with sirens blaring. Undeterred by law enforcement attempts to intervene, Feltz navigated the stolen rig with surprising agility, evading spike strips and traversing rugged terrain at a local landfill before merging onto Highway 73. Clocking speeds in excess of 70 miles per hour, the chase persisted for approximately 20 minutes until a punctured tire sent the ambulance veering off course near Pittsville. Police, exercising prudence, deployed a drone for reconnaissance and advanced with protective gear and firearms, and commands echoed through the night. Exit the ambulance with your hands raised. And to the officer's astonishment, Mr. Phelps complied, emerging entirely unclothed and devoid of any weapons. Body camera footage captured the ensuing directives: elevate your hands, rotate, and maintain visibility. Now, Phelps was subdued, prone on the ground, restrained, and escorted to the police car. The patient, fortunately unharmed, received a prompt medical attention at a nearby facility. Now, Phelps now resides in Wood County Jail, facing preliminary accusations, including a third instance of, well, guess what? DUI, driving under the influence, and this time with an ambulance. Anyway, officials have yet to elucidate the rationale behind this disrobed state of the individual, leaving observers to ponder whether it's a tactical miscalculation or merely the pinnacle of poor judgment. Anyway, stark reminder that even the most audacious schemes can unravel spectacularly, earning Phelps the dubious honor of Dumb Criminal of the Day, a title bestowed upon those whose exploits blend recklessness with remarkable ineptitude. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's all we have for you today. Hope you enjoyed the show. We'll see you next time. And remember, the Constitution matters.